Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Larissa and I crochet plushies, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back and thank you for being here. Today's video is going to be a tutorial on how to crochet this super adorable baby sloth. It's such a cartoonish little like big head small body vibe, but I think he's adorable, and I haven't made a tutorial in so long because I've been working on some other projects which I will be revealing very soon, but I do have a lot more free patterns in the works that I am going to be releasing very soon, so make sure to keep an eye out for those coming soon. But in the meantime, we'll get straight into the tutorial on how to make this adorable little sloth. The materials you're going to need to make this sloth are 3 shades of yarn, a dark brown, a chocolate brown, and cream yarn. This is my own brand, Scarly Teddy Bakery. And then some polyester stuffing, a 5mm crochet hook or whatever size you prefer, a stitch marker, 12mm safety eyes with the backs as well, scissors, and a darning needle. We will start off by making the head of the sloth using our brown and cream yarns, starting off with the brown yarn first. So taking our brown yarn and our 5mm crochet hook, we're going to start off by making a magic ring and crocheting 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And my tip, if you are working with plush yarn like myself, I like to close the magic ring a little bit shut after every single crochet, just to prevent any sort of bunching up or struggling to close it at the very end. And that is our first round of 6 single crochets in the magic ring. And for our second round, we are going to be making 6 increases all the way around. That is our second round. Moving on to round 3, just removing that stitch marker, I am going to be making 1 single crochet and then 1 increase all the way around. Now for round 4, we are going to be making 2 single crochets and then an increase 6 times all the way around, and we will have 24 stitches at the end of this round. And now for round 5, we are going to be making 3 single crochets and then an increase 6 times all the way around for a total stitch count of 30 stitches. Now moving on to round 6, this is where we were going to be introducing our cream yarn. So we are going to start off by making 4 single crochets and then an increase, and repeating that twice in the brown yarn. And at the final increase here, now we are going to be making 3 single crochets in the brown yarn and then color changing to cream at the very last single crochet. So 1, 2, And then this last one is where we are going to be color changing to cream. So make sure you have your cream yarn here ready. And in the last single crochet, we are going to color change. So I like to color change by going under the stitch, yarning over and pulling through the brown yarn, and then introducing the cream yarn at the very end here when we are finishing off our single crochet by pulling the 2 brown off our hook. And that is the last single crochet in brown with that color change to cream. And now we will be working in cream, making 1 single crochet and then an increase and color changing on the last stitch of that increase. So here, and then color changing back to brown, like so. And then in brown, we are going to just make 2 single crochets and then color change to cream at the end of that second single crochet here, and pulling the cream through. And then now in the cream yarn, we are going to be making 2 single crochets and then one more single crochet, and then color changing to brown again here in the 3rd single crochet. And then what we're gonna do is actually make an increase into the same stitch except with the brown. So 1 stitch in cream and 1 stitch in brown for this increase. And then what we are going to do is continue with 4 single crochets and then an increase, and repeating that twice again in the brown. And that is the end of round 6. We should have 36 stitches and begin our cream for the face of the sloth. And then now for round 7, we are going to make 14 single crochets in brown. And then on this 14th stitch, we are going to color change to cream again, like so. And then we are going to make 10 single crochets in cream. And then on the 10th stitch of the cream, we're going to color change back to brown, like so, and then finish off the rest of this round in brown, making 12 single crochets. And then now for rounds 8 to 12, so 5 rounds total, we are going to be making 13 single crochets in brown, color changing to cream and making 12 single crochets in cream, and then color changing back to brown and making 11 single crochets in brown. So that's going to be for the next 5 rounds from rounds 8 to 12. And I will come back to you guys at the end of round 12. We are now at the end of round 12 and our 5 rounds have been completed, and moving on to round 13, we are going to be making 14 single crochets in brown and then color changing to cream, making 10 single crochets in cream, color changing back to brown, and making 12 single crochets in brown. Now for round 14, we are going to be making 15 single crochets in brown, and then 8 single crochets in cream, and then another 13 single crochets in brown. And we can now fasten off our cream yarn. We will no longer be using the cream yarn for the rest of the head. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut the cream yarn, and we will just be working in brown for the rest of the head. So now continuing on to round 15, we are going to be making 2 single crochets and then a decrease, and repeating that 9 times all the way around for a total of 27 stitches. And then now our last round, which is round 16, is going to be a single crochet and then a decrease all the way around 9 times for a total of 18 stitches. And that brings us to the end of the head, so remove that stitch marker, and what we're going to do is just make a slip stitch into the next stitch here, like so, and then we are going to fasten off. We don't need to leave a tail, so just cut the yarn and fasten off by pulling your hook through, like so, and tightening everything. And there is our sloth head. So we are not going to add the eyes and stuffing just yet. We still need to move on to the eye patches and make those. We are going to be making 2 eye patches, so you are going to have to repeat this section of the video twice to make sure that you have the correct number of eye patches. So how we make the eye patch is start off by making a slip knot, like so, and then make 7 chains. And in the second chain from your hook right here, we are going to be making 6 single crochets down the chain. And then on the other side of your chain, we are going to be making 5 single crochets. Like so, and then here is your eye patch, and we are going to fasten off and leave a long tail for sewing, and just cut. Maybe I'll do about this much. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So cut the yarn and fasten off, and then repeat and make sure you have 2 of these little eye patches. We now have our 2 eye patches and the head of the sloth. We are going to assemble this later and add the eyes. We are moving on to the body first, and then everything will be sewn together at the end. So now moving on to the body. To make the body, we are starting off with the arms. You have to make the arms before you make the rest of the body, because we will be crocheting the arms to the body as we make the body. So we're going to be starting in brown yarn and making a magic circle and single crocheting 4 into the magic circle. And now for round 2, we are going to make in 4 increases for a total of 8 stitches at the end of this round. Now from rounds 3 to 7, so for the next 5 rounds, we are going to just single crochet all the way around. We have now finished the 5 rounds from rounds 3 to 7. Now it is time to stuff the arm very, very lightly, like so. Alright, that's enough stuffing for me. Now we are moving on to the 8th and final round. What we are going to be doing in this round is we'll be folding the arm in half like this, and we are going to make 4 single crochets through both sides of the arm like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is how you make your arm. Now it is time to fasten off. You don't need to leave a tail for these ones, so just cutting the yarn and fastening off. And be sure to repeat those instructions again. I'll have a timestamp linked here to make 2 arms. We now have 2 arms, and it's time to move on to making the legs and then the body of the sloth. For the legs, we are going to start out with our brown yarn again and make 5 single crochets into a magic circle. Now for round 2, we are going to make 5 increases all the way around for a total of 10 stitches. And now from rounds 3 to 6, so the next 4 rounds, we are going to single crochet all the way around. Now we are at the end of round 6, so we have finished the first leg, and we're just going to fasten off the first leg without leaving a tail. So just cut the yarn and fasten off, and what we are going to do is make a second leg and repeat the exact same process from rounds 1 to 6, except at the very end, do not fasten off and cut the yarn like we just did here. I'll come back to you guys at the end of round 6 for the second leg, and we will continue to make the body. I have now finished round 6 of the second leg, so here we are going to join the 2 legs together to start crocheting the body. So to do that, what we want to do is continuing off from the last stitch of round 6, we are just going to make 2 chains like such, and then join the second leg to the first leg with a single crochet. So we're just going to, just anywhere in the first leg, doesn't matter, and single crochet to join the 2 legs together. And what I'm going to do is remove the stitch marker from the second leg and place it into this first stitch here, and that's going to be the first stitch of round 7. And what we want to do is then make another 9 single crochets all the way around the first leg. And now what we want to do is make 2 2 single crochets into the 2 chains, so 1 single crochet into each chain. And what I like to do to prevent gaps is I actually go into the first stitch here that we made our initial single crochet, and then I like to do like a decrease of sorts to connect it to that first chain like this, just to prevent any holes from forming, and it's just a random stitch that you wouldn't work into otherwise, and that's why you leave the gap there. If this is a bit confusing for you, just skip this and just work straight into the chains, but this is what I like to do. It's a little tip. And then I do the same for the second chain here. I go underneath that first single crochet there, and then just make a decrease and close the gaps, so we're not working into any other stitches that are meant to be worked into later. So now we're going to do another 10 single crochets around the second leg now that we have single crocheted into the chains. And then what we want to do is make 2 single crochets again into the other side of the chain here to reach the end of the round. And that is it for round 7. For round 8, what we are going to do is make 3 single crochets and then an increase, and repeat that 6 times for a total of 30 stitches. Now from rounds 9 to 11, so the next 3 rounds, we are just going to make 30 single crochets all the way around, and I will come back to you guys at the end of round 11. Now we've finished round 11. Round 12, we are going to make 13 single crochets and then 1 decrease, and repeat that twice for a total of 28 stitches. Now for round 13, we are just going to single crochet all the way around. And now is a good time to stuff the legs and the bottom of the body of your plushie as well, if you prefer. I personally like to stuff at the very last possible second, just because I don't like breaking my focus, but I do know a lot of people prefer stuffing as you go. So if you want to stuff now, you should, and you can also have stuffed earlier if you wanted to as well. But now I'm continuing to round 14, which is 5 single crochets and a decrease 4 times for a total of 24 stitches. And now for round 15, we are going to be making 2 single crochets and then a decrease, and repeating that 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. And now it is time for our final round of the body, and this is where we are going to be attaching our arms to the body, so make sure you have these guys ready to go. So it's for round 16. What we are going to do is make 3 single crochets just as normal. And then for the next 4 single crochets, we are going to take one of the arms and just place it here, aligning the stitches, because we're going to have to work through both of these stitches. And I, of course, like to make sure that the yarn that we fastened off is tucked inside of the body, and I prefer to have the part where we fastened off facing away from the front of the body, just as a little personal preference, but I don't think it really matters. So what we're going to do is make 4 single crochets through the arm first. So place your hook through the stitch here of the arm, and then the stitch of the body, and then single crochet them together, and then repeat that 3 more times, making sure we're getting through all the stitches of the arms and onto the body as well. And this just connects the 2 of them together. And once we've done those 4 single crochets, we want to make 5 single crochets on the body as normal. And then now we're going to attach the second arm through the next 4 stitches, and then I just like to do it in reverse with the little tail from the arm facing towards the end, facing towards the back. So the first stitch I'm going to work into here is the one in the front, and then again go through both the arm and the body and just make 4 single crochets connecting the arm to the body. And then we are going to just single crochet as normal through the last 2 stitches on the body, like so. And that is our body finished. So now we can fasten off and make sure to leave a long tail for sewing. Better to be safe than sorry with how much you cut. And pull through. And that is our body finished. Now we have finished the crochet portion of this tutorial. All we have left is the assembly. So first what we're going to do is put the head together by sewing the eye patches and adding on your safety eyes. So make sure you take your 12mm safety eyes. And what we are going to do now is get the eye patches placed onto the right part of the face. And we want the nose to be in the middle of rounds 10 and 11. So I like to place the nose in the middle here of the head to help with aligning the eyes and the eye patches. So just placing it like this and securing it. Since I'm using a safety nose, you can also use a felt cutout, or you can use yarn and just sew through the middle stitch there. You can use whatever, get crafty with it, but if you also have safety noses, that is just the easiest way. So now we can add the eyes. I want the patches to start about 1.5 stitches away, or between 1 to 2 stitches away from the nose. So right about here is a nice enough distance, and then just take mental note of that. And then same for the other side. So now that I have the rough configuration of how I want my face to look, I'm going to actually secure the eyes first onto the head and then sew the patches, just so that nothing moves. So this might take a little bit of extra strength to fit the eyes through 2 layers of crochet yarn, of the chenille yarn, but just secure them on. And now the eyes are secure, but the eye patches are clearly not. So you want the eye patches to have a little bit of like a downward swoop, like so. It's kind of like a little bit of a teardrop vibe. So just sew the eye patches down and just sew them to your liking. If you want them to go down a little bit more, if you want them to be a bit straighter, it is really up to you, but I just like to have them a little bit droopy. I feel like it makes the sloth look a little bit more sloth-like and, you know, sleepy and slow. And I don't want the sewing to be really visible, so I'm just sewing quite loosely and comfortably so that we can't really see that it was sewn down. And once you have finished sewing, make sure to just pull the end through the head. It hasn't been stuffed yet, so no need to weave in the ends. Just pull it through and tuck it inside the head along with all this other loose yarn that is going to be hidden away anyway. And then now time to just repeat and sew the other eye down, doing the same thing. We have now sewn both of the eye patches onto the sloth, and as long as you're happy with how it looks, there's a little bit droopy. They don't have to be exactly the same, you know, they're sisters, not twins. But now it is time to stuff the head and fully stuff the body as well before we sew these two pieces together. So taking your stuffing, just firmly stuff the head. That will help it round out its shape. Now here is the head fully stuffed. It's nice and round. We want to do the same with the body, just stuff it nice and firmly. And here is the body nice and stuffed. It'll look really chubby and tiny. So now it is time to sew the head to the body. And as you can see, it's looking very cartoonish and super cute. So what we're gonna do is sew the head to the body. What I like to do is just take 2 plastic darning needles and align the head with the body. Make sure that it is all nice and straight, and then just stick the darning needles just through the head and usually the arms, because that'll just center everything up so that it lines up the stitches for when you're sewing together so that you don't have a wonky head. You can also use Ami sticks, but I guess this is like the budget version, and usually, you know, people already have darning needles lying around, so you definitely don't need to buy another tool to be able to have the same outcome. So now we're just gonna sew the head to the body. And here is our sloth all finished. The ends have been woven in, and this is the finished result. And here's the final result. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'm sorry if it was a bit all over the place. I am still adjusting back into filming, so I hope it was still good regardless. And if you guys did use this tutorial, please tag me on social media with all of your creations. I absolutely love seeing what you guys make with my designs. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. If you want to see more crochet related content, you can subscribe and join my little family. Love you guys. Bye.